Okay, okay, we are back again. Just now we are back, and it's something we love doing. It's something we like doing. And today, I would say, is the last day. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Sincere apologies for starting behind time. Let's put the blame on technical issues, but thank God, yeah, technical issues. But thank God we are back, and we've started already, and there will be no dull moments. We are known for that. Okay, I said something. Today is the last day of our August virtual PTA. We've done this for 4 days, different speakers, different topics, and they were all centered on giving the child a sense of belonging in today's world. Okay, and today, like I said, being the last day, will be the most impactful. Day one was impactful, day two, day three, and day four. Like it's being said in churches, you can't miss the last day. Oh. You can't miss the last day. So get ready for what is going to happen today. But before we start, let me read out something. And I believe this will prepare our minds. This will prepare you. And this post is on Facebook and it's written by our guest today. She said, one of the most striking realizations that parents will come to accept in today's world is that we are no longer raising children who will just compete with their classmates in school. So it's as good as saying no more village champions, no more local content. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
parents are
yes,
no
yes.
longer just preparing their children to compete with classmates, they are nurturing global competitors. Now, she goes on to mention so many things involved. So, the critical question now is what extra steps are we taking to empower our children to excel on the global stage? So, how do we prepare them to thrive in a global world? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, joining us today to demystify and to throw more light on this subject matter is Mrs. Precious James Obunda. Now, she is the director of Landview Preparatory
Hello,
School.
everyone. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Now, she's a founder of Learn Nigeria. She's a child educator. She's an author. And the most important part of reading her profile is that she is a product of the More Leadership Academy. So you bear me witness that she won't be saying mere theories. She will be applying it because she has worked with children and she is also a trained leader. So we start today with Mrs. Precious. So Ma, if you're ready, I'm ready.
Yes,
But
I
before we
am.
start,
Hello, sir. Good
yeah,
evening. Can you hear me?
yes, loud and clear.
I'm super excited to be here. Now, fun fact, when you sent me my topic, I was so excited. Because when I saw that, I was like, yes, yes, let's roll. Like, I'm super excited. I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I also want to thank my co-speakers, I think Pastor Mbianke,
Yeah.
Miss Udebe, Patience, and the amazing educators you've had on this platform. I'd like to salute them and say, well, thank you for a job well done. And thank you for having me. I really hope we have insightful conversations today that would not just be insightful but instructive. My goal is that parents go home with action plans. We could say all the mumbo jumbo, but if people are not able to pick, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I'm beginning to do, then there's no transformation. So
Yeah.
yeah, I hope it's actionable as well. Thank you,
Okay.
and let's go.
So yeah, so the key thing you're looking at now is the transformation. At the end of this session, a parent should be able to say, "I've learned something towards the empowerment of a child." It's very important. We are no longer producing local content. The society we are today is one that leaves no room, not minding the situation regarding a child's birth. Once you come into this world, there's no going back. And it therefore leaves a responsibility on parents to prepare their children for a global fight. Imagine, personally, okay, I was born some years ago. I never knew that I'll be meeting so many persons. And they never knew, but here we are competing very well.
Yes,
If you, I mean, it's a survival of the fittest in today's world. So no more pity. So we are
yes,
going to this, we are discussing this topic with that consciousness that there is no more pity, no more I'm sorry. So we start, Miss Precious.
yes, sir.
We are aware that you run a school, and I can tell you that going through the profile of your school, it's different from an average school. So what triggered you to put up
Thank
such
you.
a
Thank you
content? Yeah.
for Thank you for that question. So, Landview is a God-given vision that dropped in my heart while I was still in uni. Throwback, let's say we're throwing back to 2015, 2016. I studied education, and while I was dating my husband, I really used to tell him that once I come into the role, I'd like to start a crèche, I'd like to start a school. So, Landview has been in my heart for the longest time. But the trigger point for me was my daughter. I remember our last interview, I gave a little bit snippet of her birth story, where we are coming from, and what it has been for us. But 2022, I think July to be precise, we were still deliberating if we were going to take on the vision of Lenville. But after I evaluated my daughter and I saw that what the access of education she was having wasn't what I wanted her to have. So that was the trigger point to provide support for parents. Now, education or educating a child is beyond reading and writing. They are core skills, they are core competencies that I believe strongly that education institutions should be able to give to children. And that is what we do in Learnville. Our mantra is simply bringing out the genius in every child. We believe strongly that locked in every child is a genius. Locked in every child is a nation builder. It is left for the parents, the schools, the educators, the nurturers to bring out this genius. And at Learnville, we play our part. Yeah, coping and educating the parents to play theirs as well. So, in a very short introduction, that's what Learnville is about. And thank you so much for asking.
Okay. Now, from what you've said, it's actually a good market which needs proper promotion. So
Very
I'm
true.
so sure you're recruiting, or okay, I'm recruiting as if they are adults. I'm so sure it's open for admission.
Enrolling. Yes,
Yeah,
sir. It's a
you're
new
enrolling
session.
students. Okay,
Yes.
so just take time and tell us about, because I mean your school is worth this promotion.
Thank you
You're
so much.
enrolling.
So,
Yeah.
we're open for registrations. Just help call the number 07037540102. Our facility is located at Offerback Road. It's very central, very central. The closest landmark is Plaza, very central. Yeah. So if you call the numbers 07037540102. What we do most at Lenville is that we partner with parents. So you're not just giving us your children so we go to school. We actually believe in partnership with parents, parent-school partnership to trigger this transformation. Because the parents can be doing the beautiful job at home, but the school is countering what they're doing. And the school can be doing a beautiful job, but the parent is countering what they're doing. So what we do is we ensure there's a collaboration to enable the child to thrive. 07037540102. Those are our digits. So give us a call and you'll be glad you did. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You said something about collaboration. So let's start with that as we discuss this.
Yeah.
You said there must be a partnership between parents, school, and the society in
Yes.
empowering a child. Okay, can you dramatize it? Can you tell us what does this partnership look like? At what point is the parent expected to do something? At what point is the school coming in? And at what point is the society coming? Because we believe that it takes a community to train a child. So,
So you actually just said my thoughts. It takes a village. It takes a
yeah.
village. The parent brings the child into the world, nurtures the child. Charity begins at home. So even when we talk about the parent, school, community, or society collaboration, the charity would have to first begin from home. The
Okay.
work is easier for us as educators, and the work will be easier for the community if the parents do the job. So, in this equation of collaboration, the onus is on the parents. It is the skills, it are the values, the ethics that parents imbibe in children that the society can foster. But if there are no skills, if there are no competencies, if there are no values, if there are no norms that parents have instilled, the society now has to fight the wrong ideals that this child has.
Oh,
So the bulk of work is 100% on the parents,
okay.
on parenting that child. The rest of the responsibility is now going to be on the school and the community. But first, dear parents, do your job.
Okay. The key responsibility is on parents. Accepted. But there's this saying in today's world by today's parents that parenting in the 21st century is different compared to our own time. Now, is that true? Yes or no?
Very, yes, absolutely, 100% yes. The world is
Right.
different.
Okay. So, what constitutes these differences? Because these
First of
differences now leads us to the next questions, the challenges of empowering a child. So it's going to be a two-in-one. What are the differences between parenting in today's world and parenting back then, and the challenges involved in parenting?
the number one difference between the parenting that we came out from, the world we came out from, as I'm thinking of the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, is the change in ideology. There has been a 360 change in the ideologies of people. People are now more exposed. Growing up, the traditional ideologies, let's take for instance, flogging children. When we grew up, that was the generally accepted norm. If a child misbehaves, kill the child, flog the child, finish the child. But in today's world, the ideology has changed to
Different.
more gentle parenting, more intentional parenting. Parents are beginning to understand that discipline has changed. Discipline. So you see, the core difference, number one, is ideologies. The ideologies have changed. There is now an infiltration of now I'm saying in our traditional Nigerian society, there's now an infiltration of foreign ideologies. People are traveling, people are exposed, people are reading. So they are bringing the more enlightened parenting off the more developed world and blending it with our traditional parenting. I think it's the ideologies that be the major differentiator of parenting, our parents and our world now.
Okay. Okay. So with the ideology comes the problem, the challenges.
Yes.
Okay. So is there any difference between child empowerment for the rich kids and the poor kids? Would there be any difference? As in terms of classism, is there any difference?
Now, before we even move to the difference, let's look at the meaning of the word child empowerment. It's simply an empowerment, a specialized empowerment targeted at children, equipping them with skills, knowledge, self confidence, basic skills that they would need, competencies, capacity that they need to thrive. Now,
Okay.
can you ask that question again?
Okay. I said, considering you, we've accepted, we've acknowledged that there are differences between parenting in today's world as compared to now.
The world
Would
we're
there
coming from,
be,
yes.
yeah, would there be any difference or approach in empowering a rich child and a poor child? Would there be any difference?
Yes, there is. There is. There is. The
Oh,
truth is that now, I hope I'm not misunderstood. I would like to go back to the context I wanted to use for this session. I was reading the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan, something, something. And he was telling the story about, I think, luck and risk. And he gave an example of the story of Bill Gates. Now,
okay.
you know, a lot of people, now we're looking at child empowerment, and Bill Gates is a typical example of a person who was empowered right early. The empowerment of a child from an exposed, wealthy home, the mental conditioning of that child naturally readies them for life success rather than the empowerment, because the empowerment of the child who is not from an influential, who's had to deal with poverty, is a lot of mental conditioning that puts a ceiling to their achievements. As this child grows, there has to be an intentionality to break free from that trauma of growing up in lack with people jesting at the family, a whole family. So there's a whole difference. Now, I was going back to the story of Bill Gates. The story was told that Bill Gates' mother was actually one of the most influential women of her time. There is a whole Wikipedia page dedicated to Bill Gates' mother.
Mm.
So this leaves us with the question: will Bill Gates be as influential as he is today if he didn't come from the family he came from? Now, what are the odds that Bill Gates, in I think secondary or primary school, attended the only university in his locality that had a computer?
Wow.
In his that book, kind of the psychology of money is there. I was like, what were the odds that Bill Gates attended the only university? What were the odds that his mother already had links? I think she was among the board of IBM. What were the odds? What were the odds that his mother introduced him to, I think, the chairperson? I can't really get my details, but they introduced him to the chairperson that I think funded Microsoft or something of that in that line. What were the odds? The truth is that the exposure a child has, the family a child has, if these parents are not just providing exposure but also complementing with intentional parenting, gives that child a head start in life. Now,
Mm.
am I saying that the child from a poor home is disadvantaged? No. There will be a parent who doesn't have all the means. There will be a lot of intentionality to how you raise your children. Last week, I was reading about a post that John Obidi made. He was saying that no matter how parents lack, no matter how parents are poor, never transfer that poverty, lack mindset into your children. No
Whoa.
matter what you're doing, save those kids.
Whoa.
Parents, my dad was not as wealthy. We had this thing, we had our lack, but my dad prepared us for the global stage right from little. I'm going to share skills from our story. He didn't have all the money, so you might not have all the exposure. My dad didn't go to the four walls of a university, but you wouldn't know.
Ouch.
And he carried on the same traits to his girls. So what am I saying? You might not be as influential as Bill Gates' mom, but you can intentionally raise. You might not be a Bill Gates, but you can intentionally raise a Bill Gates.
Mm.
Your ideologies might you might not have that exposure, but intentionality can cover up for whatever. You can intentionally place your child where they're supposed to be.
Wow. 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 I mean, okay. Let me clap for you.
Ah,
Now that's powerful. So, should I put words in your mouth or should I quote you now? That means it's totally wrong for parents to tell their children that they are poor, they have nobody. It's
Okay.
wrong. Because for me,
You're conditioning that child.
yeah,
Negative conditioning is
ah,
one of the most difficult things to break. So I think that post by John Obidi, he just said, no matter how life is bringing you, preserve your children because their minds are still tabula rasa. Their
sure.
minds are still plain. We are still, when we talk about the mind, we talk about programming, intentional programming. So you can be living in a face me, I face you, but your child is intentionally programmed for success. It's by knowledge and knowing what to do. So it is very wrong. Your child can go to a government school, public school, but still carry the mind of someone who's going to Covenant University. It's in the reprogramming. It's in the parenting is a programming structure. What are you feeding to the mind of the children you're raising? That's the conversation we need.
Ha, with this, we can comfortably say to ourselves, let's shut down because you've said something very powerful, and I know we are quoting this particular one. Okay, let's move into the questions. Let's move to into our discussion. Already, you set the atmosphere. It's on fire already. It's on fire. I like what you're saying. I like what you're doing. Now, leadership. It's a strategy. Empowering a child, it's also a strategy. You said something about mindset. So, do we accept that programming a child is a strategy towards preparing a child into what is coming ahead? Okay,
Yes.
fine. Now, let's take you back to your days in the More Leadership Academy. Like it's just there, the pictures are there. We see when you were writing exams, like they're just there on your profile, and I know what it looks like. Okay, now I believe that while going through the classes, you had the childhood ideology at the back of your mind. For every
Yes.
theory that was thrown at you, you
I was
made
able to
boom.
tweak it. Yes.
Okay, you
I
have to
agree.
contextually blend it. Which one
Yes.
will work
So
on
how it will
children?
work in the family system. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
just take us down that lane because it's very important. From
Okay.
your wealth of knowledge there, take us down the lane. Where
So
does which of them is more effective?
okay.
Thank
So
you.
the truth is that my experience in MLA has been one of the best experiences this year. I was saying to our counselor though that if I had the power, I'd be a fly perching in all the sessions because of how deeply insightful. So if you're in Uyo and you're thinking of self-development, you're thinking of empowering yourself, more leadership academy to the rescue.
To the
Anytime, anytime.
best.
Now, in more, I learned about influence. And at the core of there's no conversation around leadership that we would have to remove the word influence. And the same thing, because we're now linking the words of leadership and the words of parenting together. There is no effective parenting without influence. It was John Maxwell that defined leadership as influence and nothing more, nothing less. If we are going to empower our children for global launch, if we're going to empower our children in such a way that they are competing with the Kwame in Ghana and they're competing with the Ahmed in Saudi Arabia and they are competing with the J in Turkey, we must, number one, influence them. But to what extent can you influence an individual if you've not influenced yourself? It was a more that we learned about, I think, the circle of influence. I think, where we looked at the different hierarchies of influence. There is the leading down, there is leading your contemporaries,
Yeah.
There is leading up and there's leading yourself. Now, if I were to ask a typical person who is not enlightened in leadership matters, what is leadership? You're going to be like, leadership is getting your people to do what you want to do. You know, it's imposing them with your ideologies. It was MLA that I caught the light. Like that section for me was so eye-opening. That leadership is 50%. Guess who? You. 50% you.
You.
5% the people under you. I think 25% your contemporaries, just like that. But 50% is you. So the influence you want to pass across to your children will first start with you. That was why my boss, Coach Wendy Odoge, the foremost parenting coach in Africa, would always say that parenting is first about you. So when we are having the empowerment conversation and the leadership in parenting conversation, we can't remove ourselves out of the picture. There are traits I see. I remember I did this post about 2 years ago. My daughter was still about 2 years then. Just a sign. Just a sign. If you talk to her, she would say, just two. You learn this over. Then I caught myself. I noticed I think I was going through a stressful period that time. So I was easily just sighing. And guess what? She picked it up. Children are like sponges. They soak up. If you're going to influence and empower any child for global launch, you are the prototype that your child will soak up. You are the archetype of whatever. So you can't prepare to launch a child to the global world if you are launching yourself to your village. If the child comes up and all you're doing is inside your compound, gisting and gossiping, that is what they will pick up. And we know gossip do not get to the global stage.
Yeah.
If all you say to your child is, "Go read their book," and you're watching Bollywood, your child is only going to dominate Bollywood. They won't dominate the world. So along leadership conversations with child empowerment is first about you. Like in MLA would say, 50% you, 5% the child, 50% you. The other, it is less. If you see a parent who is disciplined, just because children are like, Maria Montessori would say that children are like sponges, they soak up. So if you're a disciplined person, they will soak it up. My dad used to read. God bless his soul. My dad was such a voracious reader. I haven't found anyone who reads like my dad. I still go back and go to the library and carry books, come back to my house. That was how voracious he was. Now, naturally, I picked it up. Naturally. You see the way I talk with a lot of energy and vitality? That was my dad. He was a preacher, and I watched him preach and preach off with his energy unconsciously. I can't teach, and I'm sitting in a place. It's not me. It's not. Did they see? Just now sit. It's not me. But I'm trying to give this illustration to show that leadership in parenting is 100% influence. So children will pick up what you do more than what you say. So if we're going to raise children, we are pushing for global launch. Can we become global brands? If we're looking at the skills we're going to reel out, I hope we have time to reel those skills out. Can you begin to show them yourself rather than just imposing a child? Do this, do this, do this, but you're doing the opposite. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. So that's my thought about leadership, basically.
Yes.
To show you how much more Leadership Academy impacted me. I still have my lecture notes on my work decks that I go through every time. Like I just looked at it now and I saw my lecture notes. That's how much more.
For me, while you were saying this thing, I just felt that it's really necessary for us to say thumb up to Barrister Morgan.
Yes.
Thank them for putting up this. Barrister Morgan, I don't know if you're going to see this video. You're doing marvelously well. I mean, you're turning people into champions. You think you're not doing anything. You think you're not, or you think you're, I mean, it's just no. From what our guest, Mrs. Precious, has said this evening, Barrister Morgan, wherever you are a good man and you're doing greatly Yeah, you're doing great jobs in Uyo. You're doing great jobs in Uyo. Congratulations to you. And we expect that so many persons are turning in for you to make them great leaders. Okay, so back to our discussion. We actually know one thing, that every failed child affects the society negatively. And we are saying to ourselves that it is easier to train a child than to repair a man.
Yes.
And this is also a game plan for a global launch. Now,
Yes.
let's move on. How would a school prepare a child? How would a school empower a child? Because we're going to discuss the role of the school, we're going to discuss the role of the church, we're going to discuss the role of the government. Let's start with the school. As an educator, with your wealth of experience, how would a school empower a child and prepare him for this global space we are talking about today?
Okay, so I'm going to turn off my camera because my light is going off. I'll come up in a bit, but I'll still speak, okay? So I'll
Yeah,
just turn off
yeah,
my camera and I'll still speak, but if I
sure,
can
sure.
fix it up, okay. The role of a school would be to create a balance between academics and life skills. I'm going to say it again. Schools will have to create a balance between focus on academics and life skills. You
Okay.
could have an intelligent idiot. You can have a stupid person. I'm intentional about my choice of words,
Yeah.
just to show the magnanimity of what the impact can be. You can
Yeah.
have a foolish person that has a high IQ. So schools should not just focus on the IQ, they should also focus on the EQ, the emotional quotient. They should also focus on the SI, the social quotient. They should also focus on the responsibility quotient. If we are planning our curriculum and factoring these things in, that a child can be an intelligent idiot. They're not able to compete in the world. They can't relate with their individuals. Do you know that in the employment, HR officials say that in the employment in the 21st century, that the focus is becoming less on less and less on IQ, and the focus is now going to how can this person critically think, how can this person collaborate, what is this person's ability to teamwork, what do you understand? That is where this thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So empowering children, let's just not do what's it called, academics, math, English, and the rest of them. Let's balance it up with social intelligence, morals,
Okay.
life skills, and
Yeah.
all of that. Yes, these are the things that actually empower children. So let's create a balance. Do the academic competencies, balance it up. So we don't have foolish, intelligent idiots. So if you don't take anything, don't raise an intelligent
Yeah.
idiot. Don't raise
Actually,
an
that sums up the idea of this project, teaching robots. I mean, you're only producing people that are intelligent, but when it comes to working with people, they are
That's right.
missing. So
That's
that
right.
what actually prompted this PTA to tell parents, look, during these summer holidays, take out time, teach your children the basics. Automatically, so many schools are tired of these children. So why are you sending them back? Why are you sending these children back to the schools? The
Yeah.
government, they are tired of our children. So it is now your responsibility to teach the morals. Check, you go
So
around different WhatsApp groups, you see people doing funny things, and you're asking, where are these people from? Are they from this space? And if you want to check very well, you discover that these problems actually started when they were children and they were left unchecked. And in child lab, our core responsibility is to fight lost childhood. Think and imagine every lost childhood, the effect on the society, because it's always on the society. So we are done with the role of the school. Can we talk about the role of the church? Because it's very important. Apart from the school, the next place you see children, the next place children run through is the church. And I know for sure that you are a church person. Let me use that phrase, church person. So can you tell us the role of the church in preparing children? Because tomorrow, these children from the churches, they will meet children from other places that have not been to the church. Will they just go there and start telling them during what happened to during interviews that Jesus is Lord? Apart from teaching them the Bible, what else should churches teach our children to prepare them for a global war? It's already a global war. I mean, from this room, we are talking to so many persons. So how will the church now get into blend and complement the effort of the school, man?
Do you know that the conversation is still the same thing? In the school, don't raise intelligent idiots. In the church, don't raise spiritual idiots.
Oops.
Have a lot of spiritual, heavenly minded, earthly useless people. So the balance the church can create is that we should enable the children to be heavenly minded. I'm a church girl, teach them about the gospel, teach them about salvation, fill them with the Holy Spirit, have them speaking in tongues, have them chasing away demons. But when they come down, they should be able to thrive.
Yes, ma'am.
They should be intelligent. They should be able to contribute to a conversation. They should be able to adapt to a social setting. Even if God has encouraged us that we are the light of the earth, we should understand that we are not just the light of the church, we are the light of the earth. There's a reason why the Bible says that we are a city set on a hill, not a city set in the church.
Right on, Pastor.
On the hill. Let's not go there.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
A city set on the hill is creative.
Oops.
A city set on the hill has the ability to communicate. Jesus at 12 left his parents and he was able to hold elders and rabbis and all of those guys held them. He didn't hold them in the power of the Son of God at that time. He held them. Remember, Jesus didn't get into ministry till he was 30. At 12, he held them with the skills he had been developing. I am all for raising children when we get to raising children who are on fire for God, trust me, I got you. But let's create a balance. Heavenly minded, earthly useful. Heavenly minded, ability to contribute to the earth. Heavenly minded, but with an entrepreneurial mindset. Heavenly minded, but emotionally intelligent. Heavenly minded, but resilient. So, same way with the school, let's create a balance to these things.
Sorry. Thank God it's you that's saying this. Thank God it's you that's handling the last day. I mean, thank God we had to call for you for this. You've done justice. Seriously. Okay, you said intelligent idiot for schools, spiritual idiot for the churches. What would you say about the society? What kind of idiots will the society produce?
I did say.
No, we are not quoting you now. We are not quoting you because if the schools should produce intelligent idiots, and the church will produce spiritual idiots who are heavenly minded and earthly unuseful, that means the society has a role to play. Where? Yeah. So where the school fails? Okay, go on.
The role of the society, Mr. Obong, the role of the society is to provide an enabling environment for the intelligent, wise individual and the spiritually useful individual to thrive. If we don't have a society where these people can thrive, they will japa like you. This hate you. Hate you. But that's just what I'm saying. We can raise people, but they can't. That's why we have what's that social, what's that brain drain? That's why we have the brain drain. So the society, the government must be committed to providing an environment that would enable the people we are churning out from the church, the individuals that were churning out from the family, the individuals who are churning out from the schools to thrive. If they don't thrive, they will migrate, they will move. So the role of the government, create an enabling environment. That's it really.
Okay. We've said so much on what child empowerment is, and we may be misquoted. So let's differentiate what child empowerment is and what child empowerment is not. So, what child empowerment is not? Can we attempt that question?
What child empowerment? Anything that makes a child, number one, child disempowerment, if I'm permitted to use the word,
Yeah.
is anything that makes a child feel less than themselves. Anything, any word. Remember we talked about mental programming. You can deprogram a child if all the child hears are disempowering things. Child disempowerment is exposing a child to trauma, whether it is childhood trauma, sexual trauma, verbal, any abuse. We are literally disempowering children. Do you know how long it takes for an individual to heal from trauma? Especially in our society where the conversation there's a lot of shh around the conversation around trauma. However, when you talk about mental health, you're literally laughed at. People will laugh you to stupor. What are you saying? In Nigeria, we're strong people. We are strong, we're strong, we're strong. So imagine if a child is exposed to sexual abuse where they feel less than themselves, they're disempowering the child. There's a limit they can't get to if they don't heal. Another way we disempower children is by helicopter parenting. You know helicopter, be? Taka, 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 taka. Some parents are like that.
Oh,
That's what we do around our children. In my dialect, permit me to use my dialect. We say
yeah.
one man wanna is let my child not die. Your child cannot do this. They can't. You're not fostering independence. You're not inculcating skills that enables a child thrive. You're just dancing around the child. Let my child not die. Let my child. No, 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 no. You disempower a child. Why? Because you remember I talked about parenting as programming. You program into that child that they are not self-sufficient. There's a limit to the individual who is not self-sufficient can go. There is a limit that an individual who is not self-sufficient can go. There is a limit. So
Okay.
we disempower children when we are all save my child, save my. I see it a lot. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Now when you get to a point when your child is supposed to become useful and contribute meaningfully to our society. Guess what we're doing? We're disempowering them. Children
Disempowering.
learn children learn skills through practice. A child is going to learn independence by simply picking up after themselves instead of
Yeah.
learning independence.
Yeah.
A child learn to communicate when they've done something wrong and you're able to. Do you understand? So helicopter
Yeah.
parenting empower children. These are the off my heart right now. These are the ways we can disempower children.
Okay. I mean, we can't say more than this. But before we wrap. Now, child empowerment involves encouraging children to take charge of their own lives, express their feelings and thoughts, and contribute positively to the society. Keyword emphasis on contribute positively to the society. Let's end with this. You're going to dramatize two scenarios now. A society where children are not empowered, one, and a society where children are empowered. What is going to happen to a society where children are not empowered? And what will happen to a society that children are empowered? Let's do that and we wrap.
See, where children are disempowered will be in shambles. Because let's not. Do you remember that song? Children are the future of tomorrow. I'm a teacher, so I'm always going to sing. Try to pay our students. Children are the future.
Yeah, children are the
One of
future.
the reasons why we go all out at TIP, Intentional Parent Academy, We have thousands of parents in the academy learning to parent. The reason is because we can stop the moral decadence in our society if we catch these children early. Imagine if the parent of the robber and the kidnappers and the guys that get into government to siphon, imagine if they were intentional. Imagine if they programmed these children with the right ethics. Our society will not be where it is today. A society that is empowered is a society that parents, it starts with parents. Africa can have a new lease on life if parents can intentionally do the job. Africa can rise back to its days of glory if this new crop of children we are raising have more wow values. So you want to see a proof of the society when the people are disempowered. Look at the society that we have today. That's going to be my response.
Okay. Okay. I mean, we can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough, Mrs. Precious Obona, for doing justice. You've done justice. You've really explored, and you've given us something to think about. One, a church that is not committed to grooming their children for a global launch will only produce spiritual idiots. I mean, at some point, we just believe that yes, you will go to heaven, good and fine for those who believe in going to heaven, but you may not really have how do I put it, stars to show who you are. Now, a school that is not interested in grooming their children for this global launch that we are talking about will only produce intelligent idiots. And the role of the society, that's the government, is to produce the enabling environment for these children to grow. It's been wonderful having this session with you, Mrs. Precious, and we've learned a whole lot. I mean, so much, which we really need to sit back and understand most of what you've said. Now, we are rounding up, but before we do that, I want to thank you for making our time, our listeners, our fans, for staying with us for these 4 days. It's been 4 days of learning, unlearning, relearning. What we do in Child Lab is to host these holding talks on lost childhood. The most important thing is lost childhood. Once you miss it, once your own is lost, forget it. You go explain tire. Nobody will believe you. You go explain tire. So we are placing so much emphasis on protecting the integrity of every child, especially within the formative stages. We are done with August. Thank God, August has been a glorious one. But September is before us. And it will be so unfair for us to fold our arms and not do something about school resumption. I know I was having a conversation with someone said, but education is not the key thing. No, education is a key thing, especially at this formative stage of a child. You need to expose the child to education. There's one or two things, or there are things a child will learn from the classroom. So imagine a child in a classroom and the child fails woefully. Have you ever taken time to consider, why is my child failing? So for the month of September, 2nd September 2023, 7 p.m. GMT plus 1, we'll be hosting our September's edition. And we are concentrating on why children fail, where do children fail, when do children fail, and the most important thing, how do children fail within the classroom setting. So we look forward to having this session with you, and we're having wonderful panelists. We have, as our regular guests, Pastor Mbiatre Thomas, we have Evelyn Ayo, we have Good News Daniel, and we brought in a nutritionist, a food scientist. It's paramount, it's important, but we may overlook it. We think you could just eat anything. Find out, do a research, you discover that most times what your child eats affects its performance in school. So much to learn, and we are not resting until we tackle lost childhood to the very minimum. So thank you very much, Miss Precious, for your time. We love you. We celebrate you. We love what you're doing with our children over there in Yo. And we are so sure that as you put more effort, as you work on your strategies, God will give you the increase. Thank you very much. Okay, so that is it for today. That is it. Do you have something? Do you have a closing line, Mrs. Precious? Your mic?
Apologies. My closing line would be leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. As we look at empowering our children, ensure you're a template that is not countering the empowerment you're giving your child. Thank you so much, sir. It's been an honor being on this platform, and God bless you for what you do. The seeds you're sowing will grow, germinate, and mature to its fullest capacities. Thank you so much, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. And I end with this. Like Mrs. Special said, leadership, empowering your child is by example. I learned from my father not to accept bribe. I mean, there was a particular day my father is a retired civil servant. I was in his car. I'm saying this in publicly. I mean, I promised myself that I will never take bribe. The best form of bribe I will take or give is friendship. I was in a car with my dad. Someone brought a brown envelope for my dad and said she wants to say thank you. Guess what? That day there was no food. I mean, there was no money. But my dad said no, that he's not interested. Why? Because once you take this thing, there's a part of you you've given out. I mean, in civil service, they will use that one, they will hold you by your neck once you accept bribe. So you can't expect to train global kids when you, as a father, you're not behaving like one. So we love you. Thank you very much for staying with us. Let's do this again on the 2nd of September 2023. Thank you very much. Mrs. Precious.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
Yeah, we'll
Bye,
talk back
everyone.
then.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you.
Audience,
Bye.
thank you very much. Have a pleasant night. Bye.